Hi, it's Alexis Hasselberger, time management and productivity coach. Do you find that your calendar, your schedule just looks like a wall of back-to-back meetings? Maybe there's a 30-minute slot here and there where there's nothing scheduled, but you know it's going to fill up immediately. Well, I've been talking about time blocking recently. And if that's the case, if your schedule is just so packed full of meetings that you literally have no time that you can time block, that you look at the day and basically at a maximum in addition to your meetings, you're going to be able to get done email and Slack, then you might be thinking, well, how could I possibly time block? The only time I can get any of this stuff done is after everybody else goes to sleep, right? And we don't want that. So I want to share with you a way that you can do a meeting audit that will help you to reduce the number of meetings or the number of amount of time that meetings are taking up on your schedule. Because the reality is that for most of us, when I ask you, hey, how many of those meetings that are on your calendar are like the best use of your time, really great use of your time? You're not going to be saying all of them, right? That's just not usually the case. And so I want to help you to figure out a systematic way to actually remove and reduce some of those meetings. So here's what we want to do. First thing we want to do is if you're not sure which meetings are worth your time and which you're not, you want to do a little bit of tracking. And I have a little trick to do this. So one way that we can do this is just for a couple of weeks, every time you go to a meeting and it's not a great use of your time, just change the color of that meeting on your own calendar to some other color, like gray or whatever. It's your little secret code so that you will know when I look back over time, the meetings that are this other color, like they were not a great use of my time. It'll be just your code that you can use to then say, I have this meeting I have it every week, right? So 3 out of 4 times a week, it's really not that useful to me. And that gives you some real data. So that's where to start. Now, once you've determined which meetings are not a great use of your time in their current format on your calendar, then you want to go through a couple of steps. The first one is to determine, are there meetings that could be removed altogether that you don't actually need to go to? You're not contributing, you're not getting anything from them, or maybe it's just that you could delegate somebody on your team to go in your stead. Not everybody needs to be there, and they could give you a summary, right? So are there meetings that you don't actually need to be in? You can just get the information from some other way. Or maybe there are meetings that don't actually need to be meetings, like they could be an email, they're an informational meeting only, they're a status update that doesn't need to happen synchronously. So think through whether there are meetings that can be removed. Then what you want to do is of the remaining meetings, a lot of them are going to be these recurring meetings that we have time after time. And so for these, what you're going to want to do is first see what you can reduce in length and then in frequency. So are there meetings where, we've always scheduled it for an hour, but maybe we could do 45 minutes and then you would have a little wiggle room in there. Likewise, are there 30-minute meetings that are on the calendar that we could do in 20? So see where things could be reduced in length. And then the other way that we can reduce is to reduce in frequency. So maybe, that meeting that's only useful 1 out of 4 times, well, maybe we could just have it once a month instead of once a week, right? Now, really important caveat here is that you don't want to just go around willy-nilly making all of these changes on your own, right? These affect other people. You're not going to unilaterally be making decisions, but you are going to want to have conversations with other people that you might need buy-in from if you don't control these meetings to remove yourself or to suggest an experiment of making it be once a month instead of once a week. You're going to want to talk to people. You're going to want to see where you have buy-in, where you need buy-in. There are a few cases where we can just unilaterally make that decision by ourselves. And so we want to make sure that, yes, we're making ourselves more productive, we're bringing more room into our schedules, but we're doing it in such a way that it doesn't offend other people and it doesn't cause problems for other people as well. Now, the last thing that you're going to do, once you have had these conversations with others, you've been able to remove some meetings, to reduce some meetings in length and frequency, is that you are going to rearrange them, right? So probably at this point, if you were looking at a wall of meetings before, now you're looking at a block of Swiss cheese, right? So you have meetings that are dotted all over the place, and that is not particularly useful because maybe you only have 30 minutes in between meetings, and that's not enough time to get into some flow work. So then what you're going to want to do is rearrange. You're going to want to say, okay, how can I work these meetings so that I have longer blocks of time in between so that I could get into some deeper work? Maybe you're going to want to move, a bunch of meetings back to back on a single day, but since you've reduced them and they're only 20 minutes instead of 30, now you have 10 minutes in between and it doesn't feel so oppressive to have these back to backs, right? So think about how you can rearrange your schedule so that you are able to get longer blocks of time that you'll be able to block for other types of work that you need to do. And then the last step is rinse and repeat. So just because you have done this meeting audit one time, your calendar is not going to stay nice and clean forever. That's just not the way of the world. We live in an additive world. More meetings are going to get scheduled, more recurring meetings, etc. And you're going to need to do this again. So now is the time to put it on your task list. So maybe every 6 months or every 3 months, whatever works for you, you want a recurring meeting or a recurring task on your task list that's going to ask you to do the same process again. You need to be kind of always curating and culling your calendar to make sure that it's still working for you and that the right things are still on there. So if you were looking at this wall of back-to-back meetings all the time, try out these techniques and tell me how they worked for you. Drop it into the comments below if you've tried something before, or if you try it and it works well, let me know that as well.